Hello everyone, back tuning into the fourth Winter 2018-19 update from gasovis.com. So I've got another big update video for you today. We've done three winter updates so far. This is your fourth winter update, and we're counting down to the end of November when the winter updates will come to an end, and on the 2nd of December we will release the gasovis.com winter 2018-19 forecast. So all of these updates are kind of like building up the picture, if you like, to that winter forecast that we're going to be releasing at the beginning of December. We're doing 13 updates, winter updates this season. Every Sunday there'll be a winter update, and also we've got 3 seasonal model roundups coming up on the final Saturdays of September, October, November. The first one of those will be with you this coming Saturday or next Saturday. Yeah, seasonal models will be starting to come on board with these updates as well very, very shortly. So we're going to have a look at all the things you expect in your winter updates this update. So we're going to have a look at things like solar activity, sea surface temperature anomalies, and also what's happening in terms of Siberian snow cover, Arctic size extent, that kind of thing. It is going to be a little bit of an ocean special, this one, particularly focusing on the Atlantic Ocean. We've got a very unusual sea surface temperature anomaly profile across the Northern Atlantic. And we're going to go back through the archives, see if we can find any years that are matching up with 2018 for September's sea surface temperature anomaly. So I think that could be quite interesting, to say the least. I'm going to begin with some outside box analogues. Talking of analogues, big thank you to James for getting all of the analogues together and also updating the gas weather solar tracker. So again, big thank you to James Ackrill for all of his input in this video. I think that's all I'm going to tell you. Just a second before a long video, as always, with winter updates. So if you can't watch it all in go, don't worry, it will be kept at the website indefinitely. You're probably watching this on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon on the homepage. Later on today, around 7, 8 o'clock this evening, this video will be placed on the winter updates and forecast page. There'll be an extensive written summary that goes with it as well, just going over everything that we discuss in the video. And as I say, that'll be up around sort of 7, 8 o'clock this evening, so you can watch the video on demand on the winter updates page whenever you want, and also read that written summary. Get yourself a cup of tea, get yourself some biscuits and a comfy chair or whatever drink and snack you would like, and just say hope you enjoy it. Hope you enjoy the fourth winter 2018-19 update. And without anything left to talk about, I think we better get on with the video. So we're going to begin with some outside the box analogues. And these being suggested by our good friend Richard. Richard Trott has suggested some outside the box analogues that we might want to look at. So that's where we're going to start off with for our fourth winter 2018-19 update. So Richard's been having a look at the Central England temperature, and he's counted up the CETs from January through to June 2018. So, for example, January 2018 comes out with a CET at 5.3, and February at 2.9. March at 4.9 and April at 9.8, May at 13.2 and June at 16.1. Now if you add all of those numbers together, 5.3, 2.9, 4.9, 9.8, 13.2 and 16.1, you come out with an overall number of 52.2. Of course, if you wanted to get a 6-monthly average, you would have to divide that by that 52.2, you have to divide it by 6. So then Richard went back and looked at other years within the CET back to 1900 that come out with a similar or near identical sort of number, 52.2, for the CETs from January through to June. And these are the years that come out closest. So we've got 1920, January to June, 1920 comes out at 52.8, so very, very close to 2018. The winter of 1920-1921 looks like this, with above average heights over and to the east of the country, and then we've got below average heights up to the north. It means that for the flow and the jet stream, something like that. So it's a rather quiet, relatively mild winter in 1920-1921. The next January to June combination is 1938, coming out at 52.6, so even a little bit closer than 1920. The winter of 1938-1939 looks like that, with above average heights again to the east of the country and below average heights to the west. Quite a wet winter in 38-39, relatively mild through January and February, but December 1938 is cold. The next January to June, very close to 2018, is 1945. In fact, this is virtually with 2018. January to June 1945 comes out at 52.3, so just 0.1 above 52.2 for 2018. The winter of 45-46 looks like that. Again, we have the above average heights to the north. A bit of a blocking signal, actually, in the winter of 1945-1946, with below average heights to our east. And that means that it isn't anywhere near as cold as the following winter, 46-47, but you maybe just see a few hints of a blocking pattern just starting to set up there in the winter of 45-46. I think there were a few cold snaps, although it wasn't a particularly cold winter at all. Next, we have 1948. That comes out at 52.3. So again, pretty much on a par with 1945, actually, for the total temperature from January through to June for the CT. Winter of 48-49 is very mild, zonal, and Atlantic driven, with these westerly winds moving in from off the Atlantic rather like that. Just a weak blocking signal, really, around Greenland and Iceland as well. Then we have 1951. So January to June 1950 comes out very close to 2018 as well. The winter of 50-51 is like that, with the trough below average heights over top of the country. Has a very cold December in 1950, almost a December to remember, actually, in 1950. The rest of the winter turns relatively mild. 1976 is the next January to June combination, but is very close to 2018. It's got a combined CT of 52.4 from January through to June. We talked about 76, 77 quite a bit over the recent update, because it showed up a lot in our summer to winter analogues. We find that we get the below average heights to the south, the strong blocking signal up to the north. It's a front-loaded winter, starts off cold in December and then turns milder by the time we get through to the late winter of 1977. And then finally, we've got 1993. So the combined score for January to June 1953 for CT is 53.1. So just a little bit further away, perhaps, than all of the other years that we've just looked at, but reasonably close, really. This is how the winter of 93-94 looks. It's one of those 1990s Atlantic-driven winters, with the below-average heights over the UK, the above-average heights out to west, and we bring that flow and jet stream through like that. December's mixed. It's quite cold in the north, mild in the south. January is generally mild for all of us, but it does have a fairly cold February. If you put all this together, this is what you see for these years. We find that December does have a bit of a blocking signal, actually. We do find a bit of a blocking signal there for the Decembers of these years, 20, 21, 1938, 39, 45, 46, 47, 48, 50, 51, 76, 77, and 93, 94. So the Decembers of those winters do have a blocking signal up up to the north with the below average heights to the south. They look quite unsettled, but they can hold some cold potential. The blocking signal reduces in January, though. Still a bit of a blocking signal there, but certainly reduced compared to December. The January has just looked very unsettled and probably favouring pretty mild Januaries, really, through most of those winters. And then the Februaries look like that. Again, still a little bit of a blocking signal, but it is quite weak. It does appear that December has the greatest chance of having the blocking signal at its strongest. A weakened blocking signal for both January and February. Below average heights to the south, and we bring the winds in from off the Atlantic, rather like that. All of the months combined, so these have the winters themselves are coming out, and so we do have that blocking signal, but remember it's primarily down to what's happening in the Decembers with the above average heights to the north. Below average heights as a trough centred over the top of the UK. So they look rather unsettled winters, these. And the blocking signal, again, it's primarily down to what's happening in the Decembers of these winters, with the blocking tending to be reduced in the Januaries and in the Marches as well. A big thank you to Richard Trott for his outside-the-box suggestion, and big thank you to James for getting the analogues together for those years. You'll see a little bit more from Richard later on in the winter updates. He's been working on another outside-the-box suggestion. So a little bit more from Richard coming up later in the winter updates. Right, let's go on to solar activity then, and this our solar disk is looking on our side of this today from solarham.net. We're completely spotless on the solar disk once again, so it's been very much ongoing over the past few months as we get towards solar minimum. Solar activity is obviously at very low levels because there's no sunspots with this spotless disk. Solarham is reporting that solar activity is going to remain at very low levels for the next 3 days at least. This is Gasweather's fourth winter update solar activity tracker, updated by James Ackrill up to the 22nd of September. Solar activity is at very low levels, of course. We can go back to last autumn, to October, with the solar activity tracker, and that's where we currently are right now. Again, solar activity at very low levels. We're bobbing around at the bottom. Sometimes we're kind of like flatlining on the very, very bottom. Sometimes we're just lifting up a little bit, but that is at a very, very minimal and minimum level of solar activity. We did see a little bit of a tick up with our trend lines of thick red and thick green lines as we got through to the end of August and the beginning of September. But now you'll notice these trend lines are moving downwards again as we have several days now of no sunspot activity. You can see that by the orange line, which indicates each day's worth of sunspot numbers. The orange line is again flatlining on the bottom of the chart. Really, if we go back to kind of like here, back into June, you can see that we have been at a very, very low level of solar activity. Yes, we have had some days that have produced 1 or 2 sunspots, but a low level of sunspots, really. And since June, I think we have entered the true solar minimum of this solar cycle. Now, how long this goes on for, of course, is unknown. We won't know until we're out of it when this solar minimum has ended, so you never can tell, but I think we have gone into solar minimum. It's going to, they normally last at least 6 to 12 months, so I think it's going to end at some point next year, but it's just possible. We think this winter 2018-19 is going to be the true solar minimum winter of this solar cycle, but it is just possible the way this is timing that actually it could be next winter 2019-20 that is the true solar minimum winter of this solar cycle, and we don't begin solar cycle 25, the next solar cycle, until 2020. So as I say, you never know really when these solar cycles are going to end and the new one begins. There is an overlap as well, which just adds to the complication. I mean, we have already had 1 or 2 sunspots for solar cycle 25, remember. So there's always an overlap between one solar cycle going into another. It's always very hard to pinpoint when one solar cycle ends at solar minimum and the next one begins. We think it's going to be at some point next year, but it is possible it might be 2020. So it adds an added complication for the winter updates, because do we class this coming winter as the solar minimum winter, or do we actually say that it might be like a couple of winters before? It might be like the winter before the solar minimum winter, if you like. We're going to do a solar special for next week's winter update. The fifth winter update is going to be our solar activity special. So we'll discuss this much more next week, when we're going to really focus in on the solar cycles. So that's going to be quite interesting, I think. And I know a lot of people have already told me that they are really looking forward to that fifth winter update next week, which is going to be the solar special. Big thank you to James for sending through the Gaz of his solar activity tracker. Right, sea surface temperature anomalies, specifically focusing on the Pacific. We'll leave the Atlantic alone, and we'll look at that later on in the video. So we've got two areas of interest in the Pacific Ocean that we want to look at. We've got the ENSO region just here through the equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean. And then we've got the Northern Pacific up there. So that's how things were looking when we did last week's third winter update in terms of those sea surface temperature anomalies in the Pacific. This is the very latest. Again, very little change really over the week. This El Nino is just not coming together, is it? The weeks are going by, and we see, again, very, very little sign of the warmer than average signature that you would expect if we was going into an El Nino. So that is the very latest in terms of those sea surface temperature anomalies. And yes, there are some parts of the equatorial Pacific Ocean that are a little bit warmer than average, but equally we have these little blue blobs that you would not be seeing if you was in an El Nino event. So again, that looks to me like we're at ENSO neutral. There's very little sign that I can see there of a classic El Nino signature, which is when you would see, where we have these red colours up here, they are significantly above average sea surface temperature anomalies, and you would see those orange and red colours widespread across this equatorial Pacific part of the Pacific Ocean if we was going into an El Nino. There's just no real sign of the kind of sea surface temperature anomalies that you would expect to see if we was going into an El Nino. Things remain very cool in terms of the sea surface temperature anomalies off the coast of Chile. Again, I've explained this before in recent videos. That is not an area that you expect to see with colder than average sea surface temperature anomalies when you're in an El Nino. Normally this area would be warmer, and the colder sea surface temperature anomalies will be pushed kind of like into this area just here. So it just doesn't look right. It just doesn't add up to an El Nino from what I can see there. Further north in the Pacific Ocean, we see, again, it is still quite warm in the northern Pacific, especially in this northeastern part of the Pacific Ocean. So again, sea surface temperature anomalies are above average there. To me, it's looking like the winter 2018-19 is going to be an ENSO neutral winter. I think that's probably where we'll have to pitch our ENSO analogues, but let's wait and see a little bit longer. We won't be doing the ENSO analogues until we get into November's updates this year. Normally it's one of the first things we do in September, but we're holding off on it this year because it is rather uncertain about what is happening in the equatorial Pacific Ocean. I think it's going to be ENSO neutral. I think we'll be looking at ENSO neutral analogues in November, but let's wait and see a few more weeks. CFS V2 ENSO forecast is looking like that. It looks as though it's backing away a little bit now from its El Nino forecast. So the dates are on the bottom of the chart, and the temperature anomalies, sea surface temperature anomalies, are along the side. So to get an El Nino designated, we've got to go half a degree or more above average. 1 degree is like weak El Nino conditions. 1.5 degrees above average is a moderate El Nino. 2 degrees above average is a strong El Nino. And anything above 2.5 degrees above average is going into super Nino territory, such as where we was in the winter of both 97, 98, and also more recently 2015-16. When you get to Super Nino territory, when you get to this sort of level with those sea surface temperature anomalies, it's nearly always the death knell for a cold winter when ENSO, be it El Nino or La Nina, which is the cold side of ENSO, when either of them get into strong categories, it nearly always spells the death knell for a cold winter. So if you want a cold winter, you're looking for either weak or moderate El Nino, weak or moderate La Nina, or ENSO neutral. So you don't want ENSO to be a particularly dominant player for your winter if you want a cold winter in the UK and Europe. It is very different in America. UK and Europe, basically you don't want these events getting too strong. Now, the CFS V2 was forecasting a moderate El Nino a little while ago. So this black dash line is the ensemble mean. That was going up to kind of like 1.5 degrees above average around a month or so ago. Now we see the black dash line is much closer to 1 degree above average. It's in that sort of zone. So it has reduced a little bit from the moderate El Nino it was going for 2 or 3 weeks back. It's now closer to a weak El Nino. The coloured lines with this chart are interesting because they're individual ensemble members. So the red lines here, and most of those are within the stronger side of the forecast and above the ensemble mean. They are from a while back. They're the oldest ensemble members. The blue coloured lines that we see down here, these are the more recent ensemble members. So it does look as though the CFS is backing away because its most recent ensemble members are down here in this sort of weak El Nino territory. Actually, some of these ensemble members now don't get to El Nino threshold at all. For example, that one just there really struggling. This one also staying just around ENSO neutral, really. So again, we have to wait a little bit longer to see whether the CFS is truly backing off. When these ensemble members that we've got up here are rerun, and they will be in the next few days, we'll find out whether this black dash line collapses further. My suspicion is that the ensemble mean will collapse, and we're going to struggle to even go to El Nino, possibly just keeping things at ENSO neutral. But we should wait and see. We'll know within the next week or two. This is a new feature that we've been looking at for this year's winter updates. This is from weatheriscool.com, and it's depicting the strength of the zonal winds at 10 HPA. 10 HPA is kind of like one of the top levels of the atmosphere. So it's a forecast basically going through to the end of the year, through to New Year's Eve, for the strength of those zonal winds at 10 HPA. When you have strong zonal winds, you're going to be strengthening the westerly flow. You're going to be strengthening the zonal flow. If you have weak zonal winds in the stratosphere, it's telling you that your westerlies are going to be weakened, and they're going to be reduced as well. Now, through these updates, we've only done 3 updates so far, of course, but generally the trend with this forecast has been to have weakened zonal winds at 10 HPA. And we're seeing this from both the GFS model, which runs to around 2 weeks, and the CFS V2. So these green lines just here, that is the GFS ensembles. Only gets you a couple of weeks in, but you can see they are trending below average in terms of the strength of the zonal winds. This black line is the trend line, so at this time of year, of course, going into the autumn, into winter, the zonal winds should be getting stronger, they should be strengthening. So we should be seeing the zonal winds increasing in strength in the stratosphere What we see with the GFS ensembles is that increasingly the zonal winds are looking weakened. So for the next couple of weeks, it does look as though the GFS ensembles in particular are forecasting the zonal winds to be in a weaker state. That only gets you 2 weeks in, so that's only going to take us into the early part of October. Beyond that, you've got to look at a more longer range model, and that's where the rest of these coloured lines come in with CFS-V2. Now, this is October just here. That's November just there, and that's December just there. As far as we can go is to the end of December. New Year's Eve will be as far as we can go at the moment. Next month we'll be able to go through January, and then in November we'll be able to go into February as well. Now through October, which of course is going to be this month just here, we do find most of these coloured lines are getting back close to the trend, getting back close to the trend line, the black line. So it looks like the zonal winds are going to pick up a little bit from where they are now. Remember, this is where they are now. This is where the GFS is forecasting them to be in 2 weeks' time. Looks as though October will see the zonal winds strengthening a little bit. But then as we go through to November, it's been a very consistent signal with these updates with CFS-V2. As we go through into November, we find these coloured lines, the pink lines and the blue lines, are sort of weakening with the strength of the zonal winds, telling us that the zonal winds are weakening through November. The blue line does actually get up to the trend, to the black line during November, but then you see it's crashing, interestingly, in December. But I think November is, on its own, before we even get to the winter, is potentially looking quite interesting here, because it is quite a consistent signal from the CFS-V2 for the zonal winds in the stratosphere to be in a weakened state through November. If they are in a weakened state, then it does mean we might have a chance of some early cold conditions during November. So I won't be ruling out an early start to this winter, and then that could continue into December as well. You see, by the time you get through to December, generally these coloured lines are again trending underneath the black line, underneath the mean line. So it looks so November and December are going to have weakened zonal winds. That's been a clear signal with these charts that we've been looking at over the past few weeks. But we shall wait to see. We're going to keep monitoring this every week, right way through to the start of December. Right, Arctic sea ice extent next. So this is the latest in terms of Arctic sea ice from the CH Arctic Interactive Sea Ice Graph, which is part of the National Snow and Ice Data Centre. So the grey line there is the trend line for this time of the year. Of course, we are in the melt season, or have been in the melt season through the summer and into the early part of the autumn. It is where Arctic sea ice is reduced. Let's show you where we are currently for 2018. So we're under trend. That is 2018 just there in terms of the melt season. You see it has been a big melt season. We're way under the grey line. So again, we have lost a lot of Arctic sea ice this year. If I fill in a few more lines, so let's fill in the death spiral of 2012. Well, we're well above the death spiral. So whilst it has been a big melt season, we are plainly way above the death spiral year of 2012, where we had an absolute crash of Arctic sea ice. Let's fill in, let's just do a few years. So do 2013, so we're under 2013, we're under also 2014. That's 2015. We're on quite a close. We're on a par with 2015. Very close to 2015. That is 2016. We're a little bit above 2016, actually. And then we're very close to last year, 2017. Let's take those years away. And you can see the orange line, remember, is this year. It's 2018. The blue line, or the purpley blue line, is 2017. Very, very close. The green dash line is the death spiral of 2012. So we explained this last week. It's been a big melt season, but it hasn't been as bad as 2012. We've pretty much turned the corner, by the way, so let's just get rid of those and those. I can tell you that on a daily basis, we have gradually started to, in past few days, just started to see a slight tick up appearing. So on the 18th, On the 18th of September, we had 4.596. We go through to the 20th, 4.594. But then we get through to the 21st, which is the last day, 4.600. So we have reached, I think we have pretty much reached as low as it's going to get for this year's Arctic sea ice melt season, and the refreeze should now begin over the next week or two. So it's been a big melt season, not as bad as 2012, very much on a par with most of the years that we've had since 2007, very close to 2017. The reason we look at this is that there is a connection between, or there seems to be a connection between losing lots of Arctic sea ice and an increased risk of blocking later on, northern blocking over pole, Arctic blocking I suppose you would say, later in the season. Right, having a look at Siberian snow cover for you next. So again, the yellow area up here is where we've got Arctic sea ice. This whole area, which is Russia and Siberia, is going to fill up with snow in the next few weeks. We always monitor how quickly that area fills up with snow, how quickly the snow line spreads across Siberia, because if it spreads very quickly through October, it's one of the things that can be associated with a strengthened Siberian high. That's how Siberian snow cover was looking when we did last week's third winter update. Let's show you the very latest. This is it for 21st of September. So very little snow has appeared over the past week. Again, that was last week. This is the latest. Very little change over the week. If anything, we might have lost a little bit of snow cover actually over the past week, but it is swings and roundabouts, so some areas have lost a little bit, probably some areas have gained a little bit. I think overall very little change in terms of Siberian snow cover over the past week, and I can show you what was happening this time last year. Actually, we're a bit down on where we was at this point last year now in terms of Siberian snow cover. It's very, very early days. September is not really important for this. It's what happens when we get through to October. How quickly, let's go back to 2018, how quickly will the snow line spread across Siberia into Europe? How quickly will snow cover appear over Scandinavia? They're the two areas that we're interested in, and it's always October that is the most important month for that. So we'll look at this much more when we get through to October's updates. And then we've got the 2018 Atlantic hurricane season. So this is the very latest in terms of storms, tropical storms and hurricanes in the Atlantic. Let's scroll you down to the latest numbers. So far we have had this Atlantic tropical storm hurricane season. We have had 12 total depressions. We have had 11 tropical storms. We've had 5 hurricanes, and we've had just one so far major category 3 or above hurricane, that being Hurricane Florence, of course. So for the hurricanes and for the major hurricanes, the numbers are unchanged from last week. I think depressions and storms are both up 1. So total depressions is at 12. I think that's up 1 from 11. Total storms is at 11, up 1 from 10. So it's turning into probably a little bit more of a more active season than we expect. We did expect this to be a very quiet hurricane season for a variety of reasons. One of those being that we had cold sea surface temperature anomalies through the tropical Atlantic early in the season. We've also had a developing El Nino, or an El Nino trying to develop. So we expect this to be a very quiet season. I think it's probably turning out to be a little bit more active than we anticipated, but I think all of the numbers are well down on last year, on 2017. But we shall see where we end up, because we've still got the rest of September to go, and we've still got October to go as well. So although September usually is a peak of the tropical storm and hurricane season, you do tend to get quite a few in October as well. So we should just wait and see where these numbers finish up. I think it's certainly for depressions and tropical storms, I think this is certainly turning out to be a rather more active season than we thought it would be, albeit not too many hurricanes and major hurricanes, thankfully, at the moment. Remember, the reason we're looking at this is that there's a connection between active tropical storm and hurricane seasons and an increased risk of blocking later on in the winter, because what a tropical storm / hurricane is doing is transporting heat from the tropics up to the pole, and when you get a lot of warmth being transported from the tropics to the pole, that can translate back in winter to an increased chance of northern blocking. Right, talked for half an hour, or a little bit over half an hour. I'm going to pause the video there and go and get yourself a drink of water. Why don't you go and get yourself a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and we'll meet back in around 2 minutes, and we will go into our ocean special. So we're going to have a look at the sea surface temperature anomalies across the Atlantic and compare them back, see if we can find some matches to past years. So come back for that in around 2 minutes' time. Okay, we're back and we're ready to resume the 4th Winter 2018-19 update from GazWeather.com. So, earlier in the video, we looked at sea surface temperature anomalies for the Pacific Ocean in terms of ENSO and in terms of the Northern Pacific as well. Now we're going to have a bit of an Atlantic Ocean special. So, we're going to start off by having a look at the latest sea surface temperature anomaly map from NOAA for the Atlantic, and then, because we've got a very unusual, very striking temperature anomaly at the moment in the Atlantic Ocean. We will have a look and go back through the archives, see if we can find any years that match up with September 2018. So this is our latest sea surface temperature anomaly map from NOAA. And you can see it is a very unusual pattern that we've got here. So let's deal with the Norwegian Sea first of all. It remains significantly warmer than average with those sea surface temperature anomalies through the Norwegian Sea. That is something that we had last year in 2017. This was noted as being something that was happening in 2017 with those warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies there in the Norwegian Sea. They remain at the moment through the Norwegian Sea much warmer than average, but we come down towards Greenland and we see that it is much colder than average with those sea surface temperature anomalies through to the south of Greenland. But then we have this much warmer area here towards the eastern side of America and going up towards kind of like Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, that sort of area. So it's much warmer there and it's cooler or colder there. And then through the tropical Atlantic, probably not too far from average, but probably a little bit on the cooler side, if anything. So you would say either it's cooler or maybe it's sort of normal. So normal / cooler through the tropical Atlantic. So this is a very strange sea surface temperature anomaly profile that we're seeing here. Quite extreme areas of sea surface temperature anomalies, be they above or below average through the Atlantic and up to the Norwegian Sea. Let's go back then and see if we can find any matches. So this is 2017. This is last year. Again, notice what I'm talking about with the Norwegian Sea. Much warmer than average in the Norwegian Sea in 2017 in September, and pretty much on a par with that for 2018 as well. So yes, those warm sea surface temperature anomalies continue in the Norwegian Sea, but for the Atlantic, actually, there isn't much there, but it has a similarity in 2018 to 2017. Very different profile, particularly through the tropics, where it's a lot warmer. It's also a lot warmer to the south of Greenland, and then a little bit cooler just there. So it's actually hinting at a little bit of a tripole. Warm, cold, warm through September 2017. Right, let's go back. So that's 2016, and again, I don't think there's any real similarity between 2018 and 2016. Let's carry on. 2015, and again, very, very different profile in 2015. That's 2014, again, very different profile, no real similarity terms of those Atlantic sea surface temperature anomalies there. That's 2013. There might be a bit of a similarity there. What do we think? Perhaps a little bit of a similarity, particularly in terms of those warmer sea surface temperature anomalies just there, although they are further north, I think, really. They're further north than where they are right now. It isn't as cold to the south of Greenland. The Norwegian Sea is a lot cooler. So actually, not really much of a similarity between this year and 2013. That's 2012. We have a tripole going on in September 2012, so no similarity to what we've got right now. It's warm to the south of Greenland, it's cool through the central Atlantic, and it's warm through the tropical Atlantic. So no similarity at all this year to 2012. No real similarity to 2011 either. That's 2010. That's another year that has a tripole in September with warm, cool and warm sea surface temperature anomalies in September 2010, just before the December to remember. That's 2009. Again, no real similarity to this year and to 2009 either. I suppose the cold area to south of Greenland is kind of similar, but it's nowhere near as warm close to America, nowhere near as warm as it is right now. And also the tropics are probably a little bit warmer in 2009 as well. 2008, so we do have a bit of a warm area towards that eastern part of America, but nothing like what we've got at the moment. South of Greenland, it's not as cold either. That's 2007. Well, this year it's very cold in the Norwegian Sea. Look, significantly below average sea surface temperature anomalies there. We haven't seen that in the Norwegian Sea since 2007, interestingly. Generally, just no similarity to the sea surface temperature anomalies that we've got right now in 2007. No real similarity in 2006, that's 2005, where we've got a bit of a tripole going on. It's warm to the south of Greenland, it's cool in the middle of the Atlantic, when it's warm through the tropics as well. No similarity, though, to this year. 2004 doesn't bear much similarity either, nor does 2003. We're really struggling to find a match to the sea surface temperature anomalies that we've got in the North Atlantic this year. That's 2002. Again, no similarity there. That's 2001. Bear in mind, the further back we go, the more the projection of the map is changing. But you see the same broad areas that we're looking at, North Atlantic, of course, being just here now on this particular projection. Again, no real similarity to this year and 2001. Projection changes again, so now we're looking just here, and again, no connection really to the situation at the moment in terms of those sea surface temperature anomalies. That's 1999, we're back into 1990s, and again, you can see no real similarity to this year and 1999. That's 1998. Again, really struggling to find anything similar to 2018. That's 1997. Again, no real similarity. Notice the Super Nino, by the way, going on over there, but of course it's an Atlantic Ocean special, so we won't worry about that. In terms of the Atlantic, no real similarity between 2018 and 1998. Let's carry on to 1996. That's as far as we go with this particular set of charts, and again we don't see any similarity back to 1996. So we can say that at the moment what's happening in the North Atlantic hasn't happened since 1996 at this time. But yeah, we can go further back than that though. By the way, you can find the link to these charts from NOAA on the Gaz of these links page. They're always fascinating to have a look at. Let's have a look at 1995 then. So again, we see no similarity in September 1995 to 2018. Let's carry on so we can find a match. 1994, again, nothing really similar to this year. 1993, 1992, 1991. Notice how much colder the oceans are getting. That's partly because we're going back into the cold AMO period for the Atlantic anyway. Also partly because excuse me, because of the effect of the eruption of Mount Pinatubo. Now that's 1990, and I think this is the one year that possibly does have some similarity to this year. We've got this colder area to the south of Greenland just there. It isn't as warm as it is right now down this eastern side just here of the United States. But it is warm there, and remember the projection is much more basic than we've got at the moment. So it's possible that if this was looked at in a modern sort of projection, that would be a much larger area of warmth that we've got there across that near the eastern side of America. So it is warmer there, and then it's cooler up here, and then the tropics around here are kind of like near normal to cool. So again, that is kind of similar in terms of the profile to this year. I'll just get rid of that. That's kind of similar in terms of the Atlantic sea surface temperature anomaly profile that we've got at the moment. 1990 and 2018 is pretty much the closest match I can find, because I'll take you through 1989. That is almost similar, but not anywhere near as good as 1990. That's 1988, no similarity. 1987, again, no similarity. 1986, no similarity either. 1985, 1984, and as far back as we can go is 1982. And again, for all of those years, no real similarity to 2018, all the way back to 1982. So 1990, in terms of the sea surface temperature anomalies in the North Atlantic, 1990 does stand out as being a pretty close match to 2018. Certainly the closest that I can find back to 1982. Now, I can go further back than that through reanalysis, so I'll just show you this. This is how there has been an idea recently that sea surface temperature anomalies in the North Atlantic this year are similar to 1976. Certainly they were through the summer, but now you see that actually that is beginning to go away a little bit. So for September, we do find that, again, there's not all that much similarity with the sea surface temperature anomalies in 1976. That's 1990 in terms of a reanalysis. And again, you can see the similarity to this year for September 1990. Cooler up there, warmer just there, and then cooler or average round there. So again, I think there is a similarity to this year and to 1990. Another year that I thought looked quite similar was 1967. It's how the sea surface temperature anomalies were looking in September 1967. So you see, it's all much more basic, of course, because this isn't from a satellite, this is reanalysis. But you can see that it's warmer just there, close to that sort of Newfoundland area of the Atlantic, and cooler over here. So possibly there's a similarity to this year and to September 1967. That's 1946. Quite interesting, isn't it? Because we do see that it's quite warm up in the Norwegian Sea in September 1946. It's also very warm around Newfoundland, and it's warmer than average going down that eastern coast of America. This area is a lot cooler, though, in 1946 than it is this year. But there is a similarity, I think, to this year's sea surface temperature anomalies this month and to September 1946. Of course, 1946 precedes that extraordinarily severe winter of 46-47. And then there's a few years in the 1930s, interestingly, but are quite similar to this year. So this is 1938, where we have this warmer area just here, more centred in the middle of the Atlantic, though, compared to this year, and not as close to the east coast of America. I mean, it's cooler also than this year down in the tropical Atlantic. That's 1937. That looks quite similar to this year in some ways, with this warmer area just there. It's near normal through the tropics. Probably not quite as cool, though, to the south of Greenland as it is this year. You're really going to struggle to find an exact match. So we're looking for the best matches that we can find with this, really. And then that's 1934. And again, we find that we have the warmer sea surface temperature anomalies just there, cooler through the tropics, and I suppose a little bit cooler to the south of Greenland as well, although actually this year that cooler area is closer to Greenland than it is there in 1934. So they're the years that kind of like match up to this year in terms of September sea surface temperature anomalies. The closest matches we can find. This is how the winters of those matches play out. This is December 1934. It's an unsettled winter, or it's unsettled December, with below average heights in the Atlantic and above average heights down there. So it's a westerly December. January 1935 looked like that. It had above average heights out to the west of the country, with below average heights down to the southeast. And so probably quite a chilly month actually, but I think we do find that the air comes around the top of that high pressure with an Atlantic influence. So probably chilly at times, but not desperately cold. February 1935, very unsettled month indeed. Really Atlantic driven, wet and windy, probably fairly mild. February 1935. March 1935, very different. Above average heights blocking things out to the north might suggest a pretty cold end to that particular winter. The overall winter reanalysis for 34-35 has the below average heights to the south and the above average heights up to the north. Then we have 1937, 1938, so December 1937 has quite a blocking signal actually, with high pressure to the north and low pressure to the south, but it looks like it could be quite a coldish month in December 1937. January 1938 with below average heights over and to the northeast of the country and above average heights out to the west. Looks like a cold zonal flow in January 1938. February 1938, very dry, settled month with above average heights over country, quite mild as well. And the overall winter of 38-30, or March 1939 by way, has high pressure again over the top of the country as well, with those mild west-southwesterly winds. The overall winter of 37-38 looks like that. So it does have a little bit of high pressure up to the northwest, but it's primarily down to what happens in the December. Then we've got 38-39, so December 1938 is quite an interesting month. That has below average heights to the south, has quite a strong blocking signal up towards Scandinavia, and we have these cold easterly winds as well in December 1938. It is a white Christmas year, classically, 1938. Then it turns wet through January 1939. The Atlantic is unleashed as we bring in this westerly flow. There is some cold weather though in January 1939. There is some snow. February 1939 turns mild with those winds coming up from the southwest. The overall winter for 38-39. Finally, March, we've got the blocking signal to the north with below average heights to the south, and we pull down those northeast winds. I'm a little bit thrown by having March included because we've never done this before. This is the first year we've been including March in our analogues package. You have to let me know whether you are enjoying seeing the Marches included in these years. The overall winter for 38-39 comes out like that. It's an unsettled winter, with below average heights out to the southwest, above average heights over to the east. Let's go through to the next one. You can guess what it's going to be, 46-47. So December 47 looks like that, with below average heights to the south. We're already getting the high pressure going over Scandinavia. There's a couple of cold snaps in December 1946. It's not remembered as being all that cold. January 1947 has below average heights out there. The high pressure over Scandinavia is taking over. Winds getting through into the east. It doesn't get cold until the 20th of January 1947, but when it does get cold, it really does get very cold. And then February, well, extreme blocking over the northern latitudes with the below average heights to the south. You know about February 1947. It's a severely cold month indeed. And then this severe cold continues into March, although eventually it does moderate as the below average heights come back in March of 1947. The Atlantic winds eventually returns, but takes a very long time. The overall winter of 46-47 looks like that. It's mouth-watering. If you want a cold winter, it's as good as it gets, with a very strong blocking signal, most bitterly cold easterly winds. Then, of course, we had 1967, 1968. So December 1967 looks like that, with the above average heights to the west, below average heights to the east, and quite a few northerly influences in December 1967. January 1968, again, it has above average heights to the west, below average heights to the east, and there are some pretty potent cold snaps during January 1968. February also looks quite interesting in 1968, with a blocking signal close to Greenland, below average heights to the southwest of the country. So it's one of those winters where there is wintry potential, there are cold interludes, not remembered as one of the coldest winters of the 1960s, but it certainly did have its moments in January and February 1968. March 1968 has above average heights out to the west, below average heights to the east, and we're just moderating things a little bit in the March. The overall winter of 67-68 looks like that. Above average heights out to west, below average heights to the east. You can see there would have been quite a lot of northerly influences through that winter. And then finally, just again, I've showed you this in the first winter update, but 1990, in terms of the modern years and the satellite era, September 1990 does come out closest for the sea surface temperature anomalies. So just a reminder of the winter of 1990-1991, it has the above average heights close to the country, with, again, below average heights up to the north. Very odd pattern in December, but it did have a potent cold snap at one point through the month. January 1991, above average heights to the east, below average heights to the west. It's a cold, anticyclonic dry month. Then we open the door to those easterly winds in February 1991. It's a bitterly cold month with that strong Scandinavian high and those really cold easterly winds. And then the March actually still has an anticyclonic signal, so it's a very dry winter really, 1991. But it all turns much milder as the air comes up from the south. The overall winter for 1990-1991 has the above average heights over Scandinavia and winds favoured to be from the east. I do think, in terms of the satellite era, we can say that 1990 is closest to 2018 in terms of those Atlantic sea surface temperature anomalies. Finally, if you've enjoyed this video, please can you consider becoming a patron for GazWeather. So if you'd like to give us a monthly donation to help fund the website and the video content, keep it all completely free of charge as you want it and need it. There are two ways of doing it. You can become a patron for GazWeather. This is GazWeather's patron page, so you can come here, sign up for a patron account, and you can pledge an ongoing monthly donation to us. We've got 27 patrons so far. A big, big, big thank you to our 27 patrons for GazWeather who are helping us to fund our website. Alternatively, if you would just prefer to make a one-off donation, you can do that via the GazWeather's PayPal page. This is it, the GazWeather's PayPal.me page. We link to both Patreon and GazWeather's PayPal page in the description box at YouTube and at the website. So you get a shout out in videos, you get a thank you in the videos, just say thanks so much for your pledge in terms of Patreon or your donation in terms of PayPal. And it's just helping us to keep the content completely free of charge, and it's helping us to fund our website. So a big thank you to all of the patrons and all of the donors for GazWeather. And I think that pretty much wraps it up. I thought it was going to be a little bit of a shorter one this week, but we've been discussing all of this for 56 minutes, so it's been another epic. Sorry about that. But again, so much to talk about in terms of the winter updates this year. So I hope you're enjoying them. We're not yet at the halfway point either, so we've got plenty still to go. And I say next week's fifth winter 2018-19 update will be a solar special. So we'll be discussing solar activity, we'll be looking at the solar cycles, bring you up to date with solar trackers, and that's going to be a really good update, I think, next week, the fifth update. Alright, at 57 minutes, this video will be placed on the winter updates forecast page later on today with a written summary that goes with it. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.